There is a photograph on my phone that I've never been able to delete. I've tried 3 times. Each time I open it, look at it for a long moment, then close it again and put the phone face down on the counter. In the photograph, 2 women are standing on a beach in Cape Cod. The sun is setting behind them. They're laughing, the genuine, helpless kind of laughter that contorts your face into something beautiful and ridiculous all at once. The woman on the left is me. The woman on the right is Brie Ashton. We were 24 in that photograph. We had been best friends for 3 years by then, and we had the absolute, unshakable certainty of young women who have found their person, not romantically, but in the deeper sense. The person who gets you, the person you call before you call anyone else, the person whose voice changes the quality of a bad day just by being on the other end of the line. We met in graduate school at Boston University, both of us in the communications program, both of us convinced we were the most ambitious person in the room, both of us discovering with enormous relief that we'd met our match. We argued about ideas, borrowed each other's clothes, and stayed up until 2 in the morning talking about what we wanted our lives to look like. We got our master's degrees in the same ceremony, sat alphabetically 2 seats apart, Ashton, then Marrow, and in the photograph from that day we are holding our degrees and grinning at the camera like people who believe, completely, in what is coming. We moved to New York together after graduation, separate apartments, 6 blocks apart in Astoria. We worked at different companies. I went into brand strategy, Brie into public relations, but our professional worlds overlapped enough that we sometimes ended up at the same industry events, which always felt like a gift. Like the city was conspiring to keep us close. For 7 years, Brie Ashton was my closest friend. She was maid of honor at my wedding. She held my hand in the emergency room the night I thought I was having a miscarriage, but turned out to be something far less serious. I didn't know that yet. She sat beside me for 5 hours in that cold waiting room, and never once made me feel like she had somewhere else to be. She was the person I told first, about everything, including, it turns out, things she should never have been trusted with. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the thing that made the end possible, because that's where the real story lives. My husband's name is Brooks Marrow. He's a structural architect, patient, methodical, funny in the quiet way that sneaks up on you. We met at a mutual friend's birthday dinner in Brooklyn when I was 27. I liked him immediately. He wasn't flashy, didn't perform. He just sat across the table and listened well, asked good questions, and when the evening ended, asked if I wanted to get coffee sometime. I said yes without thinking about it. I introduced him to Bree 6 weeks into dating him. She came to dinner at a restaurant in the West Village. She was warm, funny, and completely herself. And Brooks liked her immediately. She messaged me afterward. He's the one. Stop overthinking it. I wasn't overthinking it, but it was good to hear. Brooks proposed 2 years later in the apartment we'd just moved into together in Brooklyn, just the 2 of us at home on a Sunday morning, and Bree, my best friend, standing 4 feet away, glowing for us. The ring was in his jacket pocket. He said he'd been carrying it for 3 weeks, waiting for a moment that felt right. And that morning, watching me make coffee in his old university sweatshirt, the moment had felt right. I said yes before he finished the sentence. Bree was the first call I made. She screamed so loud, I had to hold the phone away from my ear and laughed. She was my maid of honor. She planned the bachelorette weekend in Savannah, gave a speech at the reception that made every person in the room cry and then laugh and then cry again. She stood beside me in the photographs, like best friends do. For the first 3 years of our marriage, everything was good. Brooks and I were building something real, a home, a shared life, language that couples develop over time. Bree was a constant presence. Dinners with the 3 of us, or the 4 of us when she was seeing someone. Weekends upstate, the easy in and out of a friendship that has found a rhythm. Then the year things changed began. Brooks's firm won a large project, a mixed-use development in Midtown that would take 18 months from design through to construction oversight. It was the biggest project of his career, and it required more of him than anything had before, late nights and weekend work. I understood this because I'm an ambitious person myself. I know what it looks like when work takes over. What I didn't notice, what I should have noticed, was that during the months Brooks was most stretched and absent, Bree began showing up more. It wasn't intrusive, just naturally like it always was. She'd text to say she was in the neighborhood, an invitation for a walk, a suggestion of dinner, just the 2 of us, since Brooks was working late anyway. I was glad to have the company. I told myself, this is what a good friend does. She's filling the gap. She was filling something, but it wasn't a gap in my life she was interested in. It was a Tuesday in November when everything changed. Discoveries that reshape your life rarely arrive with warning. They arrive in ordinary moments, in the middle of ordinary days, and they leave you standing in a room that looks exactly the same as it did 5 minutes ago, but will never feel the same again. It was 7:15 in the evening. Brooks was at the office and I was working from home. I'd finished for the day and was making dinner. I went to use Brooks's laptop because mine had run out of battery and couldn't find my charger. We had always shared passwords. We had always had that kind of marriage that was transparent. I opened the laptop. His email was still open. I wasn't looking for anything. I just needed a recipe, so I went to the browser to start searching for the recipe I needed. I glanced at the email tab out of habit, the same way you glance at a room when you walk past it. My hand paused when I saw a name in his inbox. Bree Ashton. The subject line was blank. The preview text read, "Last night was..." I stood very still at the kitchen counter. Then I sat down at the table and opened the email. There was a thread, not just one message, a thread going back 4 months. As I read, something started dismantling slowly. My hands were completely steady, and my body went somewhere past feeling, into a cold, clear kind of knowing. It had started in July, a message from Bree to Brooks's personal email, not his work address, his personal one, the address that virtually nobody had. She had asked him to coffee, said she wanted to talk about something. She said she hoped it wasn't strange to reach out directly. He replied, "Not strange at all. Tuesday works." From there, the thread told its own story. The coffee became lunch, lunch became a habit, the habit became something I am not going to describe to you in detail, because some things are private, and this is one of them. What I will tell you is that by November, the thread was 4 months long, and the language in it wasn't the language of two people who have recently discovered each other. It was the language of two people who knew each other well, who had been talking for longer than the emails showed. That was the detail that undid me most. Not the infidelity itself, as devastating as that was, but the recognition that Bree had not simply fallen into something. She had known Brooks for 4 years through me. Every story I had told her about our relationship, every vulnerability I had shared, every difficulty I had described, she'd been building a map, and she used that map to find the gaps. I closed the laptop and turned off the stove. I got my coat and my phone, then walked out of the apartment, down the street, into the small park 2 blocks away. I sat on a bench in the November cold until I could breathe properly again. Then I made a decision. I wasn't going to act from the wound. I needed to understand the full extent of the betrayal before I did anything else. I walked back to the apartment before Brooks came home and was in bed, or appeared to be in bed, when he arrived. I heard him in the kitchen, heard the sounds of him unwinding from the day, keys on the counter, refrigerator opening, the soft sounds of a house at night. He came to the bedroom, saw me apparently asleep, and went quietly back to the living room. I lay in the dark with my mind racing. The following morning, I called in a personal day from work. I waited until Brooks left, then sat at the dining room table, and went through the email thread again, this time with my phone beside me, photographing every screen. I checked the dates, cross-referenced the dates against my own diary. Yes, I keep a diary, have since I was a teenager, not a daily log, but a record of significant days, events, and feelings. I have a writer's instinct to document. The July coffee. Brooks had told me he had a site visit that day. The August lunch fell on a day he'd said the team had a working dinner that ran long. I found 4 specific dates in the thread that corresponded to explanations he had given me. None of them were what he had said. I also thought about Bree. I thought about every conversation we'd shared over the preceding months, every dinner where she'd asked about Brooks with what I had read as care and affection. Every time she'd said he works so hard, you're so lucky to have someone so dedicated. Words I had received as friendship, which I now understood were reconnaissance. She'd been listening to me describe my husband with the attention of someone who wanted him. I thought about the things I had told her, the times I'd said Brooks seemed distant, preoccupied, hard to reach. I'd said those things to her because she was my best friend, and that's what you do with a best friend. You share the difficult texture of your life because you trust them. She'd taken everything I shared and used it to position herself as the antidote to my deficiencies. The understanding presence when he felt unseen, the engaged listener when he felt unheard. She had built her way in through the door I had left open by trusting her. That understanding, arriving fully formed on a Wednesday morning in my kitchen, was the most nauseating moment of the whole ordeal. Not because of what it said about her, because of what it said about how completely I had been deceived by someone I would have defended with my life. I gave myself that Wednesday. I felt everything I needed to feel. I cried in the shower, which is the only place I can really cry, something about the noise and the privacy of it. I sat with the ugliness of it and let it be as bad as it was. Then on Thursday morning, I got up, made coffee, and began to think about what came next. I confronted Brooks first because the marriage was the primary thing, and the friendship, as devastating as its betrayal was secondary. However much it hurt, Bree was not the person I had made vows to, even though I understand that she was the one who initiated the thread. I chose a Saturday morning, I made breakfast, waited until we were both at the table with our coffee. Then I said, "I need you to tell me about Bree." He went very still. "Cassie, I've read the emails, all of them. I'm not going to pretend I haven't, and I'm not going to sit here while you decide how much to tell me. I've read the emails, Brooks. I need you to fill in the rest." There was a long silence before he set down his coffee cup. He looked at the table, then at me. "When did find out?" 4 days ago. 4 days. Something moved in his face. "You've been here for 4 days knowing." "Yes." "Cassie, I'm so sorry." His voice broke on the last word. I can't give you a reason that makes it okay. There isn't one. I made a terrible choice, and I have been living with knowing what it would do to you, and Is it over?" He looked at me directly. "Yes. It's been over for 6 weeks. I ended it. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you, but I was a coward." 6 weeks. I sat with that. "Does she know it's over?" "Yes, she didn't take it well." Something cold moved through me. "What does that mean?" "She said she had feelings, real ones. She said..." He stopped. "She said she'd always had feelings for me, that it started long before the emails." I looked at him across the breakfast table. Outside the window, Brooklyn was filled with Saturday morning noise and light. "How long have you known her?" I said. "Really known her before the coffee in July." He paused. "Cassie, tell me." He looked down. "She reached out to me about 8 months before the coffee, just checking in," she said, asking how the project was going. "She said you'd mentioned it, and she wanted to see how I was coping." 8 months before. That meant she had been cultivating access to my husband for over a year. She had reached out to him under cover of caring about me. She'd built a relationship with him using my name as the door. I stood up from the table, exhaustion from the truth I had carried for a while. "I need a few days," I said. "I'm going to my sister's. We'll talk when I'm back." "Cassie, are we..." He couldn't finish it. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "I'll tell you when I do." I called Bree from my sister's apartment in Philadelphia on the second day. I'd thought about whether to call at all. Part of me wanted to simply disappear from her life without explanation, to let my silence be the statement. But another part of me, the part that had known her for 15 years, that had loved her as completely as you can love a friend, needed to hear her voice say it. I needed her to know that I knew. Needed the truth to be in the room between us, spoken out loud, without the comfortable distance of her believing she had gotten away with it. She picked up on the second ring. "Cass, I was just thinking about you. Are you okay? You've been quiet this week." Her voice was warm, completely, convincingly warm, and something in that warmth, the ease of it, the practiced naturalness, told me more than the emails had. Because this wasn't the voice of a woman who was conflicted. This was the voice of a woman who had decided that what she had done was acceptable, that I was simply the price. "Bree," I said, "I know about you and Brooks." The silence was long enough that if I hadn't known, I might have wondered if the call had dropped. "Cassie, I've read the emails, all of them. I know when it started. I know you reached out to him 8 months before the emails began. I know you used every conversation we ever had about my marriage to find your way in. That is not what happened. Then tell me what did." When she spoke again, her voice had changed. The warmth was still there, but it was thinner now, stretched over something harder underneath. "I have feelings for Brooks, real ones. I didn't plan for it to happen. It just did, and I know that's painful for you, Cassie, and I am genuinely sorry for that." "You were in the room when he proposed to me," I said. "You were standing 4 feet away when he got down on one knee. You were in the front row at our wedding. You held my hand in the emergency room, and you planned my bachelorette weekend. You sat across from me at 100 dinners and listened to me talk about my husband and my marriage while you were..." I stopped and took a breath. "You didn't just have feelings, Bree. You made choices, over and over and over again, for more than a year. Cassie, marriages are complicated. You and Brooks had problems. You told me that yourself. You said you felt disconnected from him. You said he was distant. I'm not saying that justifies anything, but it wasn't a perfect marriage that I came into." "Stop." My voice was very quiet. "Don't you dare use the things I told you in confidence to defend what you did. Those were my vulnerabilities. I shared them with you because I trusted you. You used them, and you know that." There was a long silence then. Something I hadn't expected happened. Bree began to cry, and just for a moment, 15 years of love pulled at me. all of the history we had, pulled like a tide. "I know," she said through the tears. "I know what I did. I've known for a long time. I kept telling myself it wasn't as bad as it was. I kept finding reasons why it was okay." "Was it okay?" "No," she whispered. "No, it wasn't." I sat with that for a moment. Then I said, "I'm not calling to make you feel worse. I'm calling because you needed to know that I know, and because this is goodbye, Bree. I need you to understand that. It's goodbye." She said my name again. Just once. Cassie. The way she'd said it 1,000 times, in 1,000 ordinary moments, across 15 years of friendship. "Goodbye," I said, then ended the call. I sat in my sister's spare bedroom and held the phone in my hands. I let the full weight of what I had just lost settle onto me. Not the marriage that was still uncertain, still to be decided, but the friendship of 15 years, the person who knew me best and had used that knowledge to cause me harm. There is no way to describe that grief. It's not quite heartbreak and not quite rage. It's something older and heavier than either of those. I stayed at my sister's for 5 days, then went home. Here's the brutal truth about Brooks and me in the days that followed. We went to couples therapy. We started 2 weeks after I came back from Philadelphia, and we went every week for 11 months. It was the hardest thing I have ever done, with another person sitting in a room and saying the things that feel too large and too dangerous to say in your own home, with someone present to make sure neither of you runs from it. Brooks was honest in those sessions in a way that cost him. He didn't minimize what he had done. He didn't redirect blame. He sat with it every week and answered every question I had with the completeness that rebuilding something requires. I won't say that I forgave him quickly or easily. I didn't. There were months where I was certain the marriage was over and I was simply postponing the ending. There were sessions where I couldn't look at him. There was a Tuesday night in February where I sat on the bathroom floor at 3 a.m. and thought, "I can't carry this. I'm not strong enough." But I got up and went back to the sessions. Over a few weeks, very slowly, with a great deal of backward movement mixed in with the forward, something began to knit itself back together. We're still married. This isn't the happy ending I would have chosen. I would have chosen a marriage that was never broken, but that marriage isn't the one I have. The one I have is this one, rebuilt from something that should have destroyed it, held together by two people who decided, after everything, that the thing they had made was worth the work of remaking. I also won't pretend it's the same. It's not. It's different in ways I am still learning to navigate, but it's real, and it's ours. I heard through mutual friends that Bree moved to San Francisco 8 months after our phone call. I was told once by someone who meant well that she had asked about me. I didn't ask what she said. I still can't delete the photograph from Cape Cod. I think one day I'll be able to, but not yet. Friendship is the relationship we build by choice, without the architecture of family or the contract of marriage. There are no legal bindings, no shared names, no document that says this person belongs in my life. There is only the decision, made over and over again across years, to show up, to choose each other, to be trusted with the tender, private things that don't belong anywhere else. When that trust is violated by the person who held your hand in the emergency room, who cried at your wedding, who knows the sound of your laugh better than most people know your name, it does something to you that takes a long time to recover from. It makes you distrust your own perception. If I was so wrong about Bree, so completely wrong, what else am I wrong about? Who else do I not really know? That particular aftermath, the erosion of your own certainty about your own instincts, is the longest lasting damage. Not the event itself, the doubt it leaves behind. So, let me tell you what I know now, about friendship and about the signs that something is wrong. The first sign was the intensification. When Brooks became less available, Bree became more available. That pattern, a friend moving closer precisely as a marriage becomes more strained, is worth examining. Genuine friendship supports your relationship. It doesn't position itself as a replacement for it. The second sign was the quality of her questions. Looking back, I can see now that Bree had begun asking different kinds of questions about Brooks. Not questions about us or about how we were doing. Questions about him specifically. How is Brooks really finding the project? Does he seem like himself? Is he happy? Questions that felt like care and were actually inventory. Genuine friends receive your vulnerabilities with care and confidentiality. They don't deploy them. If you share that your marriage is difficult and the friend uses that disclosure to suggest that perhaps your partner needs something you're not providing, that's not support, that's positioning. The one I find hardest to articulate was a subtle shift in how she spoke about my marriage. She was never overtly critical, but a kind of gentle, consistent framing of Brooks as a man who deserved to be understood, who who was under a lot of pressure, who probably needed more than he was getting. She was, I now understand, building a narrative, slowly, in my own living room, at my own dinner table, using my own words. If you are watching this, and a friendship in your life is beginning to feel like it is about something other than you, trust that instinct. Pay attention to who benefits from the story your friend is telling. Pay attention to where their interest really lives. And if you've been through something like this, if you're carrying the specific wordless grief of a friendship that turned out to be something other than what it appeared, I want you to know, you weren't foolish, you were trusting. What was done to you required your goodness to work. That is the perpetrator's failure, not yours. Take your time, rebuild slowly, and be careful not to let one person's betrayal become a wall between you and everyone else who deserves your trust. The world still has Breeze in it, but it has far more people who will sit beside you in a waiting room for 5 hours and mean every minute of it. Find those people and keep them. Thank you for being here with me today. This one cost me something to tell. I hope it means something to you. If you have a friend who needs to hear this story, share it with them and subscribe to our channel because we are always here. Every week, another story that deserves to be told. Leave me a comment. Have you ever lost a friendship to a betrayal you didn't see coming? What did it take to trust again? We'll see you in the next one. Take care and God bless.